Hey guys, Zen here, and I don't think there's been more tweaks and changes to Rainbow Six Siege at any other time than right now. At the tail end of Year 5, there were some huge changes detailed for some of the operators that will fundamentally change the meta and what they're all about. And at the start of Year 6, there's been a wealth of updates shown off that some say make Rainbow Six Siege a totally new experience. And so for this video, we're getting into 6 of the best and worst changes to Rainbow Six Siege that are upcoming here. Now, to be honest, there's some stuff that's highly controversial in this video, and I'll do my best to be direct with it. And of course, we'll go over all of my thoughts and everything else here as well. Now, there's just a mountain to cover here, and so there's the potential for a follow-up part 2 to this video, and so let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. And with that, let's get into this. But really quickly, a quick word from our sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. So guys, Year 6 has officially kicked off, and if you're looking for a way to pass time while you're away from the ranked grind, it's easy to jump into Raid and get a quick competitive fix. And to get started, you can use my QR code or links below to download Raid for yourself to your mobile phone or PC. Now, I've been playing Raid for a while now, and my go-to champions are Elhain and Madame Saris. Elhain is a rare champion, and you'll find that she's obviously beautiful, like the graphics here are insane, but it's her Valley of Death skill that damages literally every enemy on the battlefield and does massive damage that makes her my AoE pick. Then there's the epic champion, Madame Saris. Sometimes it's about setting up for a big play, and Madame Saris's Midnight Ritual skill removes all buffs from the enemy team and decreases their attack and defense, which leaves them open for a ton of damage. Now, this game is packed with content, but what I like about the game is mainly the PvP arena battles. Yes, Raid is also a PvP game, and as you move up, it becomes important to build out the perfect team of champions and outsmart your opponent. And so, what's new for Raid? Well, Raid just had their 2-year anniversary and are dropping a bunch of new epic and legendary champions and even more in the future. Raid also just released their first batch of the badass Shadowkin faction, a brand new faction inspired by traditional Asian folklore with some amazing champions to get. And finally, the second version of the Doom Tower with 2 tough new bosses. It won't be a walk in the park, but I've got faith in you guys. And so if you want to get a huge head start in Raid, all you have to do is hit the link in the description or scan the QR code right here. And if you're a new player, you'll get your free epic champion Joden, 100k silver, 50 gems, and the 3 ancient shards so you can summon awesome champions as soon as you get in game. And yeah, here's the champion you'll get for free. You'll get your extra rewards right here in your inbox for the next 30 days only. And it's that easy, guys. Just click the link in the description and I'll see you in the game. All right, so to begin at number 1 is one of the most sensitive updates, but the major buff to Nokk. Now, there were a lot of people confused at the start of the new season when they looked through everything and noticed that Nokk had been unchanged. Where she's at today has pretty much always been considered underwhelming, and what they did to buff her was just tremendous. And so, for those who missed it, Nokk received a buff that made her unaffected by proximity-based gadgets when her Hell gadget is active. The list included Ella's Gersmots, Kapkan's EDD, proximity alarms, Melusi's Banshee, and even metal detectors. If Nokk came around and she had her gadget active, then none of these gadgets went off, and the effect made her an absolute must pick in the test server. It really was game changing. And so what happened? Where's the buff? What it really came down to was a combination of some pros and top tier players that thought the change tipped the scales a little too heavy in Nokk's favor, which made certain playstyles inconsistent. And also the devs needing to go back and further tweak the change. The positive is that if you are a Nokk main, then you'll be happy to know that it hasn't been scrapped, and there is definitely going to be some level of this buff added to her, but as it was a little too strong. Something else you might like to know is that for me, personally speaking, I thought this was a nearly perfect buff to this operator and finally made her the menacing attacker she's capable of being. Given that Nokk is made to be a stealthy attacker, quite possibly the most stealthy attacker in the current meta, it's almost impossible for her to support her team with all the gadgets that are between her and making it into the objective, with virtually no way to counter them. This buff gave her a fighting chance to move in, and as far as testing, it worked well. My only gripe is that I don't think Kapkan's EDD should be a part of that list. Technically speaking, even though they removed the laser part of the trap, it is more motion-based over straight-up proximity, and so I think the EDD should still have to go off on Nokk, gadget on or off. It would serve as a nice buff to Kapkan as well, being his trap would have to be dealt with by her before she could progress, which gives sound cues and all that. And so I'm going to categorize this under one of the best changes here. It's still being worked on, and Nokk should be a much stronger operator at some point in Year 6. Next is an update I never even considered until it was unveiled, but the friendly electricity rework. So this change was super low-key, like they only released it in the test server, it wasn't available in training grounds or custom games, and you had to matchmake for the time that they had it live to experience it. And overall, I think it's a go. Now, the exact change is that all defender gadgets will be immune to friendly electricity. So if you're working with a bandit or Kaid and they have walls or barbed wire electrified, then you can basically place any gadget, whether it's a Jaeger ADS, a mute jammer, one of Wamai's magnets, or even a C4, you can place it close to or fully on the electrified surface and it'll act as it always has. And this opens up just more freedom for the defender. defenders. Now, there are some who feel this takes a bit of the realism out of Siege, and it makes sense. In a real-world situation, these gadgets probably would be fried. I mean, it's the basics here. But I think for the experience and the meta of the game right now, I think it mostly has to do with comfortability and making the interaction simpler. There have been so many times where I put up walls and throw an Electric Claw high, like where a teammate might not see it, and they go to place an ADS or a jammer on the wall as a way to fortify it, and it's obviously fried because the claw fully deploys. It's not ultra commonplace, but it does happen, and each time it does, it negatively affects the round and can make a difference. Also, as we've mentioned in the past, this is a beautiful counter to Maverick, because now while he's doing his thing on an electrified wall, there's the threat of a C4 coming out of one of those holes and taking him out. This currently isn't possible, and it basically gives Maverick a freebie to do whatever he wants to a wall without much of a counter to offset it. And so for me, guys, this one is only really a good thing. Maybe a little more casual, yes, but ultimately more freeing and a little more of a challenge for the attackers to consider. Now, there is a rumor that this will make it into the game as soon as this season, so it's possible there isn't much of a wait here, and so for this one, I'm going with another one of the best changes upcoming here. So in the last video, we talked about the new home for the fathers of Rainbow Six Siege. Both Alexander Remy and Xavier Marquise have been brought on by Amazon to develop their next game and head up their new Montreal studio. But beyond those two are a few more pretty big changes that have occurred. So K Lyrical has recently left the community team, and she was someone who acted like a glue for the community and the developers. Yubi Noti, another community dev, moved on, and most recently, Jean-Baptiste, otherwise known as JB, one of the lead game designers and honestly one of the most well-recognized faces of Siege development, has also stepped down and is moving away from the game. Of course, people get new opportunities or just want to take their careers in another direction, but as a player, what it should signal to all of us is that even on the back end, Siege is changing and fresh talent is being given big opportunities to move the needle forward. All of these guys are just goats and made the game we all enjoy today, and they deserve their praise. They laid the foundation of a game that was originally doomed to be another bargain bin Rainbow Six game and made it into one of the biggest shooters of our era, and that's no small feat. But with that groundwork gives the new teams at Ubisoft an opportunity to make a lot of progress, and I know a new dev team has kind of been a touchy subject for the community, but I personally find it fascinating to see what a fresh take on Rainbow Six Siege development looks like. I won't say it's one of the best changes because the old team built what we have now, and I won't say it's one of the worst either because I want to see the new vision for Siege fully realized, and that comes with just time. And so, yeah. Elite customization is number 4, and we can be quick about this one. Simply, it's amazing. Soon, you'll be able to mix and match any uniform and headgear with any elite, and even equip the victory animation with however you set it up. This has been something the community has been salivating over ever since the elites were added to the game, and with how open-ended other games like this are, it's about time. There isn't a ton to say here, other than it's another best here for the list, and that it will finally be a thing here for Rainbow Six Siege. Next up at number 5 is the full and complete streamer mode, and guys, this one is a bit of a mess. The thing with streamer mode that really stumps, I think, a lot of people is that, for one, there isn't a more obvious game that needs it. Rainbow Six Siege is one of the most competitive games with an active and healthy streaming community, and for things to remain totally fair for all of its players, it is essential to have here for the game. The other bit is that we're not breaking new ground here. Streamer mode is in literally every other shooter on the market, and so it's confusing why it's so hard to nail down in this 6-year-old game. And that's where I think the problem lies. Siege is a 6-year-old game, which means it's built on a 6-year-old frame, and my best assumption is that it's not so easy to get something like this feature to play nice on this dated software. For me, this is literally the only reason I can concoct that adds up to why this wasn't a feature back in year 1. And so, this is one of the worst upcoming changes, not because of what it does. I mean, it's vital, but because I'm not totally convinced it's close to being ready, and I'm not sure if it'll ever be to the degree it needs to be 100% successful. Last up here, guys, is probably a long forgotten update that was again a bit low key, but pre-reinforced hatches. For those that missed that small window of time it was in testing, all of the outside hatches on all of the maps that had them came pre-reinforced from the start of the match. So, like the 2 main hatches on Cafe, where the attackers always enter from, they were pre-reinforced, and the attackers would have to bring some kind of hard breaching tool to get them open. This also meant that Kaid could throw up a claw during the prep phase and have them electrified before the attackers moved in. Honestly, it didn't play out so bad when I went hands-on, but I think it was the right call to not move forward with it afterward. The thing is, Siege is already trying super hard to fight against the defender-favored meta, and especially now, certain operators like Mute are getting a spotlight shined on them and becoming must-picks. And so, the last thing the attackers need right now are more barriers to get through to get started, and this would be considered a big one. Even though there are more breachers than ever, there isn't as many support roles, and I think it would force a Maverick pick and also a Hibana pick just to guarantee access to those hatches. I think in time it might need to be brought in, but for right now, I think we just need more operators and a balance to the meta for this one to be a change for the good. And so for number 6, it is on the worst list, with an asterisk that things will change and maybe it'll be necessary. But that's it, guys. 6 of the upcoming changes to Rainbow Six Siege. If you enjoyed it, drop a like and subscribe with notifications if you haven't yet. I'm out.